South Africa's economic outlook, investment potential and the future of finance and accounting will take centre stage at the Money Summit underway in Sandton. The gathering has brought together finance and investment leaders who will also assess global and local economic risks, among others. SABC News economics reporter Katlego Legodi is at the Sandton Convention Centre and joins us live now. Good afternoon, Katlego. Just take us through what's happening there where you are.
We are coming to you live this afternoon from Sandton Convention Centre. This is where inside we have the Deputy Finance Minister, Deputy Minister David Masondo, who's addressing day one of the Money Summit that is underway here in Sandton. So we're going to be speaking to him in a moment to give us a sense of what then government has been working on in terms of ensuring that they come through for the economy. At the same time, we have various of those role players. Banks are here. We have investors that are here, and most of them are just looking at just solving for the economy and looking at some of these efforts that have been underway to ensure that we come through for the economy. When you look at all of these issues that have been touted here, Mfundo, we hear them talking about the geopolitics that are at play right now and how that becomes an impediment in terms of growth. You hear them at the same time just talking about how then they're looking at the government of national unity, just staying together, solidifying some of their efforts to ensure that there is economic growth. They're talking about Operation Vulindlela in addressing some of those structural challenges that have existed over time. I'm just going to look aside for the minister. He's about to join us. We are expecting for him to join us in a moment just to give us a sense of what he was presenting there at the podium. But a variety of those issues, slow economic growth, most of them are just looking at ensuring as well that there is economic growth. This coming through as well at the back of that announcement around the GDP, and we'll ask the minister to react this afternoon to really just give us a sense of how they are receiving some of these developments as a government. And you hear the minister as well just talking about ensuring that they really just arrest the debt burden that we have in the country right now, and even saying as well that there's a need to ensure that the country gets out of the grey list. He's here. The minister is going to be joining us to really just give us a sense of what he presented there. Minister, good afternoon. Welcome to the SABC. I know you were busy up there, and it's been a marathon, really, and in trying to solve for the economy, but solve for the country. Just at the back of the announcement, the GDP announcement, let's get your take. There's been an increase in terms of our GDP, and that is notable. That is something that is positive. Maybe give us a sense of, as the National Treasury, what are you really anticipating where that is concerned, and looking at the economic growth going into the future?
We always aspire to have higher economic growth. Our National Development Plan says that we should be growing at 5% in order to halve unemployment and or halve poverty in South Africa. And we've always said that part of the reason why our economy has not been growing has been the supply side constraints, the supply of electricity, telecommunication, data, water, skills, and freight logistics. And in this forum I was in now, they were asking whether government is serious or not insofar as growing our economy. And we made a case that government is very serious in growing the economy. Where we had to deal with the supply side constraint on the economy, we've performed, and we will continue to perform. Load shedding, it's something of the past now. The ESCOM is working, and other private business people are also generating energy, and that is as a consequence of the regulations that we had to change to allow the private sector to generate energy. So we are on the move. We are undertaking reforms that are quite critical to grow our economy. Our allocation of the budget itself, 1 trillion rand, infrastructure for the next 3 years, it's also aimed at making sure that we grow our economy, because as we invest in infrastructure, what it means is that the cost of doing business in South Africa, the cost of living in South Africa gets reduced, because if there's supply of electricity, the supply of freight logistics, passenger rail through PRASA, workers are paying less on transportation costs, it means that the pressure on the demands on wages get lower, and therefore the cost of doing business in South Africa become lower and lower, and we become competitive compared to other jurisdictions in the world.
Another issue that you touched on, Minister, was the message of hope for those that are here around the grey listing that the country has been navigating over time. You are saying that there's positives there, and soon we'll be expecting an announcement that will give us a sense of whether we are moving out of this grey list or we're remaining there, and what we'll need to do as well going into the future to avoid finding ourselves where we are here today. Where are we?
So FATF, which they found a number of 22 deficiencies in our system to the ability to combat money laundering, terror finance. They found 22 deficiencies. We've addressed 22. There's only 2 left, and we're very hopeful that by October, when FATF plenary sits, they will take us positively and will be out of the grey list. Because the problem with being in a grey list is that the cost of doing business in South Africa become higher, because what has to happen if I'm doing business with other international business people, they have to do more due diligence. They've got to comply with a lot of things, and nothing comes from mahala. You've got to pay for those due diligence, people looking at whether your company is not being used for money laundering, it's not being used for terror finance. So it becomes a burden for companies that are operating in South Africa. So being out of the grey list, it means that the cost of you doing business with South African companies, whether in South Africa or in the rest of the world, becomes cheaper. So this is simply about our ability to fight financial crimes, and FATF so far says out of 22, 20 you've ticked the boxes. There's only 2 left. But it doesn't mean that once we are taken out of the grey list, we rest on our laurels and do nothing. We must still show the capacity of fighting crime in general and fighting financial crimes in particular. The continuous killing of our internal auditors, forensic auditors, insolvency lawyers must really come to a stop. That will send a good signal that South Africa were capable of fighting crime in general and fighting financial crimes in particular. And as we do that, we're setting the right conditions for attracting investment in South Africa. As money flows into South Africa, we're in a much better position to employ more people into the economy. We're halving unemployment. As we employ more people, we get more businesses. It means that the tax revenue into government increases, and we will be in a better position to provide the necessary services that the South African citizens require: water, education, health, housing, and many other needs that our people in South Africa require.
Let's touch on the jobs bloodbath, because there are multinational companies that are shutting their doors here in South Africa, and we get concerned as well when we hear of the 30% tariff that has been imposed on some of the goods here. I know as the economic cluster ministers, you've been meeting to try by all means to arrest some of these things and come through for South Africans, but where are we with our talks with the United States of America? How do we ensure that our economy comes through to protect even the small companies that have been battling in navigating this uncertainty?
The trade relationship with the U.S. for us is very, very important, because to grow the economy, you've got to, what you produce here, you must not only sell it here in South Africa, but you must sell it to the rest of the world. And as your goods and services get bought by different consumers in South Africa and outside, it means that your profitability as a business increases, you retain your employees, you employ more people. So trade for us with the United States is very, very critical. As the conversations with the U.S. are ongoing, for us to maintain a solid trade relationship with the U.S., but we are also seeking to diversify or increase the number of trade partners for certain goods. E.g., we have recently concluded a trade deal with China on the stone fruits. so that our farmers, as they farm, they produce more, we should still fight to get access to the US market, but at the same time, we should also try to get other markets. Even if there were no tariffs, we were still gonna seek to diversify our tariffs. So we're not diversifying our trade relations because of the tariffs, the impending tariffs with the US, but we're doing that precisely because we have to have a number of trading partners in order to grow our economy.
Let's quickly, briefly, I'm pressed for time, throw forward to the midterm budget policy statement. Are we still on track? What can we expect where that is concerned? There have been issues that have been raised around debt level that government has been working on arresting over time. Is it going to be delivered in time? And we're going to see a repeat of what we saw with the budget and the delays and the to and the fro's. What can we expect going into next month?
Insofar as the budget process is concerned, we've learned our lessons around how best to consult different parties and parties both in government and in parliament to make sure that the repeat of February doesn't recur. And I think we're also undertaking some reforms which the minister will announce on the day of the budget on what those reforms are to improve our budget process. And he will also give South Africans details on how we're performing insofar as our public finances are concerned, including debt, expenditure. So I will encourage you to wait until November the 12th. I think the date has been announced already.
All right. DM, thank you very much, sir, for your time. The Deputy Finance Minister, David Masondo, coming through to really just give us a sense of the work that has been underway. A tough question that he had to answer here in terms of what has government been doing and what still needs to be done to ensure that we grow the economy. And here you see him reacting as well to the GDP numbers that were released a moment ago.